Hi folks, welcome to day 13. Today we're going to be going back and revisiting and reviewing how to factor a quadratic in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. So there were some folks that struggled with this a little bit, so they reached out about it. And because a few of you reached out, I wanted to make sure that I was respecting that and going through another couple examples for you, okay? So a different way, what I think of as the long way of factoring is to actually fill out a table. So what you could do is if you are struggling with the way that I taught you on Monday how to factor, what you could do is you could actually fill out this table where you list out the factors of A and the factors of C. But in addition to listing those out, you'd also list the possible factorizations, right? The possible options for factoring, and what your middle term would be, because that's your B. So I'll put that in parentheses, B. Because if what you get for B in your example isn't what you wanted, well then obviously that's not the right example, right? That's not the right factorization. So let's go ahead and work through the example. Go ahead and take away that line. I have 3x squared minus 7x plus 2. All right. So I have my factors of A. So since I have 3, my A is 3, right? And my C is 2, so I have the options of 1 and 3, all right, as my factors of A. And I wrote it twice because I know that there's going to be 2 options for my factors of B, or sorry, for my factors of C. But this is why this differs a little bit from my method, which was like the A and C with the cross diagonals, right? Which like that, it's the exact same information. It's just mine is my method. It's kind of like a shortcut method. Saves you a little bit of time. Don't have to go through a formal table. But I wanted to show this way since a few of you were struggling, and this is how your book frames it. So after we list out our factors of A, I'm going to also list out my factors of C, which would normally be 1 and 2, and then 2 and 1, and then -1 and -2 and -2 and -1, right? So it's 4 different options. However, I'm going to teach you about a little trick about the different signs. So depending on the sign of B and the sign of C, that limits what your factors are going to be. If they're going to be both positive, both negative, or a combination. All right, so in this case, I know that my factors of C both have to be negative in order to get a positive C but a negative B. So that means my factors of C are going to be -1 and -2, or -2 and -1. All right, so those are my options. I remember that I have to include an X with my purple numbers, so I have X -1, and I have 3 X minus 2. I'm going to go over real quick where I got those. So I have X minus 1. All right, so that came from the first factor of A and the first factor of C. And I have 3x. I have -2. All right, so the 3x came from the factor of A, and the -2 came from the factor of C. All right? So the middle term, I like to think of the middle term, if you're considering your foiling, it's the OI in FOIL, the outer and the inner. So I have my outer, which is -2 times x, and my inner, which is -3 times x. So that's -2 minus 3, which is -5x. You can see I'm looking for a -7, so I know for sure it's not my first one, but I'm going to walk you through how to do it again for the second half, even though I already know that that's going to be the proper factorization. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and write out my factorization. So I have x minus 2, and remember that comes from my purple one, gets me my x, and this minus 2 got me my minus 2. And then we have 3x minus 1. Which again, that comes from the 3, getting me a 3x. And that minus 1, getting me minus 1 there. Looking at my my outer, I have minus x. And my inner, I have minus 6x. So negative x minus 6x gets me a negative 7x. That's what I'm looking for. So that means my factoring is x minus 2 times 3x minus 1. All right, so if you like that way, you're more than welcome to use it. All right, you can use either way on your quiz on Friday and either way on your test. Hopefully you saw on your announcements that your cumulative test was supposed to be on Friday, but it was pushed to Tuesday, all right? And for Friday, instead, we'll just have like a short quiz on just this stuff, the factoring with A is bigger than 1 and factoring by grouping. All right, so the last thing I'm going to do for this video is walk you through a trick on how to know whether or not your factors of C are positive, negative, or both. So this trick depends on the sign of B, the sign of C, and the signs of the factors of C. All right? All right. So, if B is positive and C is positive, then the factors of C are both positive. All right? So that means like it'd be x plus your factor and then x plus your factor. If B is positive but C is negative, then you're going to have different signs. So 1 plus and 1 minus. All right. If you have a negative B and a positive C, then they're going to both be negative. And if you have a negative C and a negative B and a negative C, right, if they're both negative, then again, they'll have different signs. So 1 positive, 1 negative. All right? So if you have positives and positives, then it's all positives. If you have negatives and positives, then it's both negatives. And if you had 1 positive and 1 negative, or if you have both negative, then they're going to be different signs. 1 positive, 1 negative. All right? That's all I have for you today. Your assignment today is an optional assignment. They're optional problems, since this is stuff that is meant to be review to help you out. All right? So optional work today. I included the answers to them in the written notes, so you can always go back and check your work on the written notes too. All right? Best of luck to you.